to the flag of the United States of America,
to the flag
and to
of the
the
United
republic
States of
for which it
America,
stands,
one nation, for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with peace and justice for all.
That was interesting.
All right, thank you. We need to approve the agenda. Do we have a motion to do that?
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion to approve the agenda.
All right, do we have a second?
Second.
I'll second.
All right, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All right, it doesn't sound like any opposed. Recognitions, do we have anybody there to be recognized today? I'm pulling up my packet right now. The computer is going to be slow with this internet.
Well, we would like to announce a few names. We've been trying to find some local homemade masks to pass out to employees who are working the front lines, and we really would like to. Sorry. We would like to recognize Ms. Kayla Elmore, John Pike, a junior at Topsail High School, John Seaman, Kate Fair Formalware, and Miss Bloodworth, who's a former teacher, retired, who has been working to donate masks or make masks. They've been really exceptional in helping everybody out, and I just wanted to give them a shout out, thank them for what they're doing.
All right, very good. Anybody else? Any more, Dr. Hill?
No, sir.
Okay, thanks. All right, Alex, do we have anybody signed up for public comment?
No, sir, we don't.
Okay. And no one has gotten any emails or any of that about public comment, I'm assuming, right?
Nope.
There is another option.
Okay.
New Hanover.
Then information item one.
Hey, are you
Oh,
talking?
good, I'm sorry.
He's on. Thank you. All right. He's here.
Dr. Hill, would you repeat that? I didn't hear it.
I'm sorry. Mr. Riley wanted to know, earlier we were talking, and right now we're asking people to email any public comments in, but we noticed that New Hanover's gone to a call-in and record a message. And do you guys have a preference? Doesn't matter. You want us to just keep it just as written, type it in?
It doesn't matter.
Just leave it like it is?
Yeah.
We've got the time.
No, we'll get it off, man.
Okay. Good enough. They're under information item one. Guidance regarding PCS employees. Dr. Hill, do you need to wait on Richard to do this? When he joins? I'm here. Okay. Hey, Richard. How you doing? Good. Y'all go ahead then with item one.
Okay, basically it's just the clarification things that what we're doing are still moving forward. Food service right now, we're working approximately 50 sites with about 25 buses that are rolling. Employing right now on an average of 120 people. There's 114 right now that are on the sheet. And if the board is satisfied, we just want to say you're satisfied with the current level of service. We want to continue on with that. We're able to perform it. The good news is we thought we were going to have a lot of staff that maybe started taking leave of some kind as it came out. We do have about 40 people who took advantage of that, but we still have about 40 people to the good, basically what it would take to run that operation the way it is. So we started investigating today on options for those people if that we could possibly offer the board down the road about allowing some people to take emergency leave if we wanted to trim that down. Right now we've got a couple of people riding buses, and we realistically have an extra person riding buses we probably don't need. But that would be something that we'll investigate. And the only reason we would be looking at that is health. Reducing the number of people who are out and about would be the main function of that. Right now, our We just want to say it's going well. We have a few more people than we need. We have about 40 more people probably than we need to run it. We just ran it efficiently. And so we're going to continue like we are, but we're researching how to bring that number down. And if we have an option that looks viable, we'll present it, as a recommendation. So is the board okay with what we're doing right now with the 50 sites?
Yes.
Okay. Just kind of checking in.
We're at an advantage and disadvantage by contracting our,
Yeah. You got 59 employees extra, yeah.
I was talking to Brunswick County, that's what they're doing with their extra employees. They're now in the schools, they're studying. Duplin County, they're working in the cafeteria because they're in-house, they're not contract.
So that's what we're working towards right now anyhow. So I'm just making you aware of it, making sure we're on the right track. Number 2 question.
Hey, Steve?
Yes, sir.
Steve, can I interrupt here? Board member Steve?
Sure.
If you're looking at simply making changes, and we've discussed some of this, by reducing the excess number of personnel that you need to run this operation, that doesn't need to come back to the board as a recommendation because you're not changing the program.
Right. Okay. So if we find there's an option there that fits with people, that we'll send you an email and make sure you're aware of everything going on. The second one is offer incentive pay. We talked about that a little bit in the last meeting. I think the board wants to do that. I just want to confirm that because we've actually put it on as an action item. And we talked about 3 different scenarios, but our recommendation will be B on that situation when we get to that. But is the board still moving forward with an incentive pay offer is what it sounds like. So I just want to clarify that. And number 3 is there was a specific question about whether we could require people to come in if we were going to do large trainings and things like that. So I asked Richard, Richard, you got any advice on that?
Yeah, if you're having staff report to sites to do the professional development, that's going against all the recommendations for what you should be doing, and you've got the ability to offer that PD online, which is the way you should be doing it. Anytime you can do it remotely, as opposed to having people come in, that's what you should be doing.
That's for all.
Are we speaking specifically about the EC behavioral PD that we were offering the IA?
I wasn't.
So is that all personal development with all staff? Is that what you're saying, Richard? Because the way
I'm sorry, what you said, Brad?
the way that the EC
You glitched. I didn't understand what you said.
is that for all staff or just the instructional assistants you're talking about bringing in?
Well, it would apply, the same idea would apply for anybody. If you can offer the professional development online, if it's capable of being offered online, that's the way it should be offered.
Okay, the way that the schedule was sent to us for the EC personal development was an hour or 2 hours a day. With those people, we talked about them having to have some kind of gainful employment, gainful job to do. That's only paying them for 2 hours a day doing it that way. Is that correct?
No, because the state board emergency leave would kick in for any time that you don't have work for them. If they're not able to work because you don't have work for them, then the state board emergency leave would kick in to pay them their full salary.
Okay, so they could do their 2 hours of PD, and then the rest of the day they could get paid through the leave.
Yep.
Well, didn't we know this earlier? Because
that would have been an easy. Didn't you just recently get
well, that's pretty much a no-brainer there.
Yep.
Well, is Melinda Martina there?
No.
Ma'am.
Okay, or Dr. Hill or Dr. Aiken, maybe you can answer this. How many ECIAs do we have taking this PD for the RBT training?
As far as we have 101 total participants, I'd have to go back and check how many are specifically EC instructional assistants. It's a combination of EC instructional assistants, some certified staff, and as well as some kindergarten IAs and some of our preschool staff. But I could get you that. The majority are probably going to be our EC instructional assistants, but they are not the only ones. But 101 is the current total number of participants.
101.
Yes, ma'am.
That is outstanding. I'm happy with that. That's fantastic.
Well, then you'll like hearing it may be more than that once we get the grant money spent, but we're still working with the feds on the grant.
So it's not,
Okay.
so it's not just limited to the ECIAs, it can be anyone.
Yes, ma'am.
And then, Mr. Swartz, what you're saying is, once they do the 2 hours, after that, the emergency leave would kick in, and they would get their full hours. Is that what we're hearing?
That's correct, and beyond that, if that would apply for any school employees for whom we don't have work. Okay, so if we don't have work full-time or part-time for them, they still get paid full-time, be sitting at home. The whole idea behind the State Board Emergency Leave is it's taking available funds to maintain the employment of those folks and keep them from congregating in schools where they could be spreading the virus, and keeping them off the unemployment rolls.
Okay. Then I'm like Mr. George, that's a no-brainer.
So is this retroactive back to, is this leave retroactive back to the beginning of this?
Yes.
For the leave that,
It covers half of March, second half of March, and it goes through April 30th, as of right now. But as with everything about this, and everything we're doing, that could change tomorrow.
does our people know this already?
Yes, the paperwork was sent out to all employees in reference to the different types of leave, so that information has been.
Oh, you're talking about FMLA and emergency?
The
Or sick leave?
emergency leave, yes,
That's what went out.
And then,
Right, and this is
new clarification. I haven't heard of them.
This is different than that, and it applies through the month of April. So, this is another form of leave that's available.
right, that piece came out after the other information had been shared. It was like it was sending some of it out, and then we got that as further clarification after.
Have we had very many people apply for this leave he's talking about? We have.
Yes, yes.
Now, is that the FMLA or the sick or the emergency leave that we're talking about?
We have several that overlap. Some had originally applied for the FMLA, but then we also have the after-school PACES staff who automatically qualified for the state of emergency leave because there is no work available for them. 21st century staff still working, but PACES is not.
Now there's 3 options based on the last 14.
So the people that are on FMLA, correct me if I'm wrong, because like everybody says it changes every 30 seconds. Some of that criteria, they weren't getting full pay, they were only getting 2/3 pay. Do we have people that are on that 2/3 pay thing?
That's one of them. Fran has all of that information on a spreadsheet by who's receiving what. Keeping in mind too that anybody who was already on FMLA does not switch over to this.
They can't.
No. This is just from this
Today.
time forward.
Today.
I'm serious.
Today. But yeah, anybody who was already out on FMLA did
Or
not
any
switch
other
over
type
to
of
this,
leave.
or any other type leave
They
did not switch
can't
over to
switch.
this.
So if they jumped the gun and went out earlier, then some of them may be only getting 2/3 pay? Or you think there's only just one?
So I'm saying anybody who was, say, already on maternity leave or whatever.
Right, right.
Can switch over to this.
I'm talking about the emergency FMLA was 2/3 pay, right?
It might be a
It
Rich
was-
question. Rich, you got,
Let me pull that.
you picked that up?
There was six steps of criteria.
Yeah.
One through something was 2/3 pay.
Right. Those folks can go on to the State Board Emergency Leave.
That's why I'm asking, if we have people that already applied for that, can they come off of that and go on the full pay instead of being on the 2/3 pay?
Yes.
Those are the ones Fran spoken with.
All right, any more questions?
Yeah, I have one.
Wait, I'm not done with that yet, no, we're still talking. So, because I just want to make sure we're clear. So basically, if I'm an IA and I want to do the PD, that's 2 hours a day, is that what I'm understanding? It can be, however long. I can choose to go on this emergency leave for the other hours that do not encompass the PD, and I will get full pay. I just want to make sure I'm understanding that. Is that what I'm understanding?
That's correct.
Okay.
That's correct, but it's basically, if we assign you, if you're that TA,
Right.
that IA, and we want you to take that professional development for 2 hours, we can assign you that professional development because that's work that we have for you, available for you. If we don't have work available for you the other 6 hours of that day, then your state emergency leave would kick in and you get paid for that full day, even though you only work 2 hours.
And from what I'm understanding about this PD, and Beth, this is where you got to come into, and Dr. Akins, all of you guys, from what I understand, it is so beneficial to every IA because whether you're an ECIA or not, those of us who've worked with children know that we have behaviors that's as such that with this PD may really help us and benefit us. Is that correct? Yes. Okay.
And Cindy, that's why I was so excited to see this, because a lot of our ECIAs are also bus drivers, and I think that having a bus driver with behavioral training is just, I think it's a great idea.
All right, so then, Mr. Swartz, so what do? We just offer this to them, or their choice, or what do we do?
No, you can assign it to them. No, that's an administrative choice.
Okay.
Or direction as to who's doing what. And it can change from day to day.
Yeah.
The issue for being eligible for the state, the issue for being eligible, I don't mean the guidance can change, the work status can change from day to day. The issue for being, in order to be eligible for the State Board Emergency Leave, because there's no work, is that there's no work available. If there's work available, for half the day, then they can take the state board leave for half the day. The other half of the day.
So right now we have TAs that are working with the meal program. They have a job. They wouldn't necessarily qualify for this, if they're working a full day now, correct? I mean, it's for,
That's correct.
it's for employees that we
Yep.
don't have something for them to do right now.
Yeah. If we direct them to report to work, okay, at some place other than home, teleworking from home, then, they're on regular work time. Okay, but if in the policy, it's referred to as non-mandatory employees. That is, they have not been required to report to work either on site or at a school bus, or online, then they can continue to be assigned work as it's available. But if it's not available, then they're eligible for this paid emergency leave. And the designations of who comes in at what time and on what days for what purpose can change at any point in time based on the needs of the school system, the operational needs.
Okay, I've got a question for Dr. Aiken. Has any of the EC teachers come up and been concerned that without the TAs that they aren't going to be able to provide their students FAPE?
Sorry, Ms. Burns, can you say that again? I'm not sure I understand the question.
Sure. Have any of our EC teachers expressed any concern about not having their IAs available to help them as far as being able to provide FAPE for their students? In other words, I know that these IAs are invaluable in a classroom. Are any of the EC teachers coming to you guys and saying, I really need my IA assistant right now?
I have
because
not.
We want to make sure that we're providing FAPE.
Yes, ma'am. I have not received any communication. I can double check with Ms. Martina, but currently she's not expressed that any of our teachers have contacted her about needing the assistance of our instructional assistants right now.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
So can I make this a little more complicated? So we have 120 employees on the bus thing. You said we're a little bit overloaded there. Could this work where we worked half of the crew, part of the crew the first part of the week, and another part of the crew the second part of the week, to give them all the opportunity to take a break? And is that possible? Is that possible to do?
I think it's possible. I think it's all how you look at it.
I mean, it's like the IAs are helping, the food preparation and stuff along with the drivers, so you have to really schedule out based on the needs on what days.
Right. He said they were about 40 over what they really needed. I don't know if there was a way to work it where everybody got
at least
everybody
there's
got
some workers that can do that. And it may depend on, do we want those workers? And it goes, Rich and I have been having this discussion about, does the order mean, are we supposed to get as many people home not getting out in the public as possible? And with that up, I mean, that's how you look at it. If we're trying to limit the number of people who are going out, I don't know if that would meet that definition. If we're trying to equal out the workload where they're getting half pay and half work, half pay, that exactly would meet that definition. And we could do that with the IAs. More than the drivers.
Right.
Obviously, there might be an issue with the drivers. But, Rich, what do you think?
And it's just a matter of how you figure out the best way to staff it. Right now you got more people than you need. You can split schedules, you can, work flex schedules, but, when we talked a little while ago, you said you needed to look at it and figure out the best way to staff it. But you got more people than you need to be working together at the same time. So the question is, how do you want to restaff the whole thing to make it work best for the operational needs of the system and the employees?
So how many buses do you have? So the remainder of your bus drivers, how many ever hundreds of bus drivers you have, are they already on some type of leave or what?
Most of our drivers are working.
So they're working either prepping or driving.
Most of them are assigned to us, yes. They do help out in the food preparation bag. But what we've done is ask the TAs to come in if they don't have any meeting in school to provide it.
Right.
We're under direction to, if they pay, they would have to work. You know, you have TAs coming in unless they have their principal some other do PD or help from book.
So if you want us to work it, I mean, we could do that. We could, the ones that could be split, I mean, there's some that probably couldn't be split.
Right.
But we could filter that out and then have only some of them coming in and then rotate them on and let the emergency leave that's available pick up the rest of their day.
So Richard, I got another question for this, and then I guess we can move on if everybody's ready. They'll pay the hourly rate that they receive if we, by chance, happen to change it and add an incentive rate to their hourly rate. Their staff emergency, or their state emergency leave rate is what? Their normal rate or the incentive rate?
The state emergency leave rate for their regular pay does not include hazard pay.
Okay.
It's their regular pay rate.
That's all the questions I had right now, but I'm sure there's more on the way.
So,
All right, anybody else? Any more questions?
well, that's what, so are we offering so they can do the PD? If
We can
they-
take advantage of we're gonna take advantage of the emergency
Yes.
leave now.
Yes.
Yes,
Available to these
that's-
employees.
Please, yes.
All right.
Rest of you
We'll
guys
set that
okay?
schedule up.
Ken, are you there?
Yes.
Beth, you're good?
Oh, yeah, I'm good. Sounds good by me.
We're good.
Okay.
Good with me.
That's all I got started with the TV, and I wanted to see it happen.
Good deal. So, and number 4 question that we just want to clarify is that those are the people that are working, basically. That's the essential staff that are currently working. I just never put it in a list for you. So that's what that is. So basically, food service, we talked about, finance department, you gotta get paid. And there's really no way to telework that. We've worked on that. They've got to have access to those machines. Human resources is processing everything that we talked about with these different types of leaves and things like that. And then operations, we talked about that last time. Those guys are still servicing the buildings, working with contractors. And then under organizational development, mostly that's tech with the Wi-Fi and things like that, what we're working on. And goes without saying, your cabinets here, most of your supervisor and building supervisors, your APs and Ps are keeping your building open on a regular schedule. So that's what's happening right now in your system.
So while we're talking about essential, while we're on the essential label, I talked to Mr. Davis in Duplin County yesterday, just to try to get an idea of what they're doing with their TAs. And he was telling me that one of the things their TAs are involved in is going to the school, copying, making copies of instructional packages, and making sure that they have a kind of similar makeup of the county that we got as far as internet access. The way he talks, the eastern and southern part of the county doesn't have it, kind of like our western part has struggles. And their TAs were taking those packages and getting them, making sure the students got them on a weekly basis. And they were working with the teachers online, teleworking with the teachers online. If a student had, they were online the same office hours 2 days a week, I think he said that the teachers are. So if there was, the teacher had an influx of students that needed help, the TA was able to telework and help those students online. I thought those were some things we could, before I knew about this.
Well, we got the league to fill in the gaps. Those are some of the things that some of them were doing. We do have a few TAs that were, and I think Dr. Aiken probably could speak towards it more with curriculum, but we have some that were working straight with making, especially West Pender, making a lot of paper copies, a lot of paper packets and things like that. There was a handful of that there, and with the new emergency leave, we can fill in those holes, and if the board's satisfied, we can move forward with that and set some of those up for you. Anything to add, Dr. Aiken?
No, sir, I'm just taking another check. I know in the original 2-week time period, we did have some of that. I don't know how much of that is still continuing with the new guidance.
Yeah, my understanding is all the TAs that were doing that kind of got told that they were not, that we said they were not essential and got sent home unless they were working with food prep. So was my understanding, that nobody was doing those packets and nobody was doing that kind of stuff at the school.
At the school level, a lot of times it's either the principal or whichever data manager puts information on site. They are making the copies, and then our staff is making copies here and delivering. So it's a little bit everybody, but we are doing that process. The hand packs is going home, putting in Ziploc bags, and talk to them about how we can appropriately and safely do that. So I know for a fact that the schools have already started that process. Who's doing it has been today. Cheryl Holt.
Cheryl Holt was making
Running copies for reading books for us.
I don't know how this is Rich, I don't know how you've communicated that, but it might be that you might want to make sure that your teachers understand that they're allowed to use their TAs for those purposes. Can I make one other point regarding item 4 here, the folks who are designated as essential working staff? That's not the board doesn't have to approve that designation. The administration can determine that, and it can change depending upon operational needs and circumstances.
See that on the...
All right. Anything else? All right, good. Y'all ready to move on to item 2? Everybody good with the first item?
Yes.
All right, item 2, Instructional Services Division update. Dr. Aiken.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. One quick thing, Ms. Burns, I did want to follow up. I've been exchanging some messages with Ms. Martina. I do need to clarify. We have 101 slots that we have purchased to this point. We have 54 currently enrolled. With the new information that we've received this evening, though, we're pretty sure we can fill another 50 pretty easily now after the first cohort is done. So Ms. Martina and I have been exchanging some emails about when we think that first cohort will be finished. So we have 101 total slots, so that's why I use that number. We have 54 currently enrolled. As soon as those are done, we're pretty sure we can find another close to 50 that would move on. And then Mr. Taylor and I spoke today regarding the source of that money. It came from a Safe Schools grant. We have some remainder left over that we are considering to buy even more than the 101 slots. We do want to hold a couple for potential new hires for that day when we can finally return to school as normal. But I did want to make that clarification real quick.
That sounds great. Thank you, Dr. Aiken.
So for instructional services, really what I want to do is I wanted to congratulate and highlight the work that our teachers, our coaches, our principals, and our directors have done over these last 3 weeks. So last week was our first full week. This week we brought on Pender, so now all 18 schools are up and running with some kind of e-learning distance work. I am exceptionally pleased with what our staff put together as far as an e-learning framework. I do think we've really done a great job of walking a fine line between providing engagement and opportunity while also recognizing that we do have students in situations, whether they be technical due to internet access, as Mr. George mentioned earlier. We have some whose both parents are working in the healthcare industry, and so their parents are under extraordinary stress and may be working 24-hour shifts. We have students that are obviously taking care of younger siblings, so we have a full gamut in our community, and it really is not isolated to one area. But despite that, I think we've done some great work, so just wanted to share a couple things. And none of this would have happened, and I should really say thanks to our technology team that has made much of this work, because it is an e-learning framework, and if the technology is not there, it really doesn't matter. Between our 2 Chromebook distribution dates, the original one March 17th, and we've conducted another one April 6th, we've now been able to distribute over 5,000 Chromebooks that are playing a key role in this. Just already we've seen a difference in what's going on from our first launch of iReady, which is our online platform that we're really using in our lower and middle grades for reading and math. As of today, we had 88% of the possible students that had at least logged in and attempted an assignment today. That's up from the first launch of 44%. So within a matter of days, we've doubled the percentage of participation rate. Dr. Lee had a chance to meet with our middle school directors today, and they're looking at an overall average of about 60% of the students per day signing into Google Classrooms. And so that's just one way of participating, but that does show, I think, some really good things. Just some other things. We've had 8,277 direct contacts with students where we did make those phone calls to find out how they were doing. So that's not duplicates. Those are 8,000 of our students we specifically have made contact with. Our teachers are doing great. We have launched between our students and our staff. Google Classroom and ClassLink has been launched almost 33,000 times. So it is getting used. We've got almost 2,500 Google Classrooms currently set up. And again, thank you to our technology staff for making that as efficient as possible. In those 2,500 classrooms, over 3,000 assignments have been given out and being utilized. We've had 4,800 Google Meets so far in the last 3 weeks. And they are doing it. I can attest. My fourth grader has one every day. And then our teachers are learning to use the video conferencing, so not just the Google Meet where you're there and you're exchanging, but actual video conferences. Just to give you an idea of those 4,800, that's 317 hours worth of content time that our teachers have been interacting with our students. And that actually does not count our preschool, and I made an error. I should have really highlighted our preschools when we met on April 2nd, and I want to apologize to our preschool staff, but they are actually making videos every day and launching them through Facebook, where they're modeling lessons and providing our families with examples for what they could be doing for that skill set for our youngest kids. I don't even know the number of videos at this point that they have done. They launched that within a short time after the first 2-week closure. So it really has been a pre-K-12 effort. The other thing I want to mention is this is not just your reading and your math. Our science and social studies are teachers involved. Our world language teachers at the high school. I met with Ms. Bird during that 2-week gap, and they've formed a little PLC, and they're collaborating, trying to launch stuff. We've got our CTE teachers doing the very best they can. There's been a ton of virtual opportunities that have come out, but Ms. Willenwaber is meeting with them, trying to do the best you can when you take a course that's designed to be hands-on, and now you lose that, but they are working as a PLC. They meet every week trying to figure out how to do that. Our counselors have their own Google Classrooms. And they are meeting and trying to serve students that way. And at the same time, again, thanks to our technology team, with whether it's Google Classroom or some of the other ones, we're really trying to make sure that our resource teachers are still connected, whether they be EC or ESL or AIG. Where we can, they have access to the same Google Classroom, so they can log in and go along with the content teacher. Most of them have their own one. AIG teachers, I know several have done their own one. EL and EC teachers, some of them have their own ones in addition to kind of co-teaching through Google Classroom. And that takes a whole other level of collaboration to be able to do that when you can't see each other. And our teachers are meeting in their own virtual PLCs all the time. Want to give a shout out to Dr. Marillaire. She had them start a kind of a reflection sheet, and one of the things that they wrote back is sort of learning and relying on each other. And that was one of the things we wanted from the very beginning, that no one teacher should be out there by themselves having to do this. And our teachers have taken that and really run with that. And I give them such great credit. So we are using the units that they sort of created. We're trying to make sure we stay with the standard course of study. iReady was a big launch, and I give both Mr. Allen and Mr. Lawson and Dr. Metcalf and our principals. Ms. Martina was a part of that. It's one of the reasons we chose it, because it has the ability to differentiate. But we're using that 3.8. It's free. But there was a big push to get that out, and 88% of our elementary students that can log in are logging in, so I think that speaks to its usability. I had hoped to bring some DPI updates to you, but I'll be honest, there really aren't any. not since our April 2nd meeting. Really, there hasn't been much new. You may be interested if you hear the iStation, which was the reading program that Dr. Metcalf talked to you about at one point. The contract actually originally expired on March 31st. The state board did not take it up. They went back in April and agreed to allow the data to be accessible, but a local system would have to pay to continue using it. We're comfortable with what we're doing. We think it's providing our students and our teachers some better information. But just in case you heard something, I want to let you know about that. Basically, every question that we've asked, it's May 15th. Seems to be the deadline. The General Assembly is supposed to come back the last week of April. There's a lot that they're waiting for that. The CPR stuff that the DPI, state board approved, still has to technically be approved by the General Assembly. We don't anticipate any issues with that, but that's still sort of in limbo. In terms of testing, so I mentioned the EOGs and EOCs are waived, but that's attached to the federal accountability. The NCFEs, or social studies and science ones, that's part of the state accountability, so we're waiting for the General Assembly to technically approve that. DPI is recommending that we don't do it. So that's another one of those, waiting for the General Assembly to kind of come back. Read to Achieve, obviously one of our biggest efforts over the summer in terms of reading camps. Again, we don't know where that's going, waiting for the General Assembly to come back. So not a whole lot new other than what I shared back on April 2nd. We are working hard with our high school principals, looking at alternatives both for graduation ceremonies, still trying to figure out how we can do prom at some point. A lot of that, even our summer camps beyond Read to Achieve, a lot of the work we were doing with Parks and Rec, I've been in communication with Turner a little bit. A lot of it's waiting for the next step in terms of the executive orders related to May 15th. Kind of looking at a series of deadlines. What happens May 15th? Come back? No. If it's no, is there another date that's given to us? June 1, is it something attached to that we can begin planning on? So we're kind of looking at it in chunks of time, both for our own work and then our work with some of our external agencies. But ultimately, I think if you hear from our teachers here, our teachers, our principals, please, I think, congratulate them for what they pulled off. I would put up our framework against any district in the state. I've had a chance to talk to some of the local colleagues, and I think what we're doing and what our teachers are doing on a daily basis is pretty phenomenal. So those are my big updates to this point.
So you talked about the General Assembly coming back. I talked to Representative Smith the other day. He wants us to come up with what we would like to see. He said they go back on the 28th, and it would be kind of like not all going back in the chamber at the same time. They're going to be kind of spread out all over.
Kind of wondering how they're going to do
Raleigh, until they can get enough there to override the executive order for the. He wants the ideas of what we want. Do we want to go back to school on the 15th, May 15th? Do we want to go back earlier? Do we want to go back later? He wants us as a board to kind of figure out what we want them to talk about. He said the first 2 weeks back, their schedule has them dealing with the fallout from this. And then hopefully after 2 weeks they can get back to regular business, he said. But the first 2 weeks are there is dealing with this.
I think there's a lot of potential conversation. I know we're supposed to have another meeting with my colleagues in the Southeast, if not this week, next week, to kind of do that. We haven't been asked, so that's the first I've heard that. That would be good. I know I've asked Dr. Hill, because we would like a decision for sure. My biggest concern is waiting until the week of May 15th for us to hear. That would be, I think, the biggest challenge. The sooner that we can get a decision, regardless of what it is, the better for us to be able to either move forward or begin retransitioning. The directors and I have already started talking about reintegrating staff, reintegrating students. What does that look like? What does it look like if we don't come back? So we're going to try to have the options ready to go for a series of scenarios, but the sooner the better would be my first request. Please don't wait until that week. That would be hard.
Thank you.
This is Rich. Again, the North Carolina final exams are about 99% sure to be canceled this year. The General Assembly last year eliminated the North Carolina final exams for next year and beyond. So this would have been the last year of them anyway. The state board has the authority to eliminate the final exams on its own, but there's some discussions going on to actually have the General Assembly act to do it, but the state board has the authority to do it. The General Assembly doesn't act.
I haven't received anything from them saying they've done it yet, so we're on standby. We do expect it to.
No, there is nothing from them. I'm telling you what the discussions are that are going on behind the scenes.
Thank you. Thank you, members.
All right, thank you, Dr. Aiken. Betsy, finance update.
Good evening. In your board packet is the budget report, which I like to provide to you so you can see where we're at with our budget. Don't know if you have any questions about it. It's where we were on April 7th. And this is, of course, the second report is the I laugh when I do this report now because, you know, last year wasn't a normal year and this year's not a normal year, so I don't know what we're really comparing, but this is where we're at with it. It's just real hard when we're having two unnormal years, you know, or abnormal years. So I don't know if you have any questions about them. I'll try to answer them. Just kind of moving along. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Mr. LaFawn, Operations Department.
Good evening, board members. I'll make this pretty quick. The Meals on Wheels program, a lot of what is going on with it's already been discussed previously in other conversations, but just a quick update. Meals on Wheels program serves Pender County's families out of 56 sites. 25 buses provide 49 stops. They're served out of the 4 cafeterias that do the cooking, and Aramark provides van service to take food to 3 other school sites. So that's 56 total sites that we're serving out of. Last week, 88,726 meals were served through those sites, and of those, only 309 came back to the cafeterias. That's for
the whole week?
For the whole week. If you do the math, that's less than 0.5% waste. I think that's pretty incredible. So if there's not any questions, I think we've pretty much covered everything else with Meals on Wheels. So, but I did think that those statistics are pretty impressive. I like what we're doing for the people of the county.
So, do we have a limit on how many meals a car can pick up?
We do not. We currently do not.
Mr. Davis of Duplin County was telling me that they had to limit theirs to 4 because some people come pick up 40, 20. And he said they didn't so much limit it to them picking up by excessive number, was the health department told them that 4 was a good number to get them there and out of the way to keep them from lingering
right
at the site. Yeah, they're doing it at the
That's correct. They do not offer any remote.
Right.
Everything that they do is through 6 kitchens. And they have to come to the schools for it. I haven't had anyone complain about the time it takes or how much time is being spent. I think the way that our drivers are operating, it's basically almost grab and go. There's not a lot of time spent.
Totally pre-packaged.
But we haven't had people show up and get 40 meals, have we?
Not yet. We had 10, but 40 meals, no. We had requests for some other areas to be served. Outside of that, the state says we can't say that parent or that
Right.
car has only 4 kids. So, we're trying to do is make sure we set up meals where we're constantly staying up or down with our numbers to accommodate the people that are coming to get it. So I think we're doing a good job in that matter. But like bid, the bottom door, they get it.
Yeah, he said they didn't limit the number. You can get 4 at a time, but you can circle around and get back in line as many times as you want to get in line. They haven't. But he said he said they went from 8,000 some meals a day to 1,200.
Right.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Just by limiting the number that people could pick up over a 2-week period.
Well, we haven't done that yet.
He said they stopped it for 3 days. They stopped it altogether and just had to stop and regroup because they couldn't keep up. And now they've started back. They have a system and a protocol that
So far, we've been able to keep up with the demand.
good deal.
Are we driving up and getting the food, or are we getting out and going and getting the food at a table? Or how's that working? I don't know. I haven't been able to see how that works.
So far, they have it, car drive up, give them a meal and party. That's what most of them are doing now. I think I've seen anything different.
My parents love it. I hear it at the restaurant all the time. I hear it on a weekly basis, at least, if not every day, every other day. You just keep that food coming because it's the most wonderful thing. And I don't know what those little cream cheese things are, but yeah, they're the hot item. Just saying. And I know everybody's listening to me right now, and they're probably nodding their heads. Yep, my kids love those because apparently those cream cheese things are on it.
I think it's also good for, a lot of them are using it as a time to get out of the house.
Yeah.
Yes.
So it's a reason to go, and everybody I talked to is excited that we're still doing it and don't want us to stop.
Good. Item 2, Pender High School's covered walkway. It's in engineering and fabrication right now. They have not given me a start date when they will start the project, but as soon as they're able to get the materials and things and the engineering done, then they'll get that started. I would expect that it would be very soon, but again, they have not given me a start date on it yet. As soon as I have a start date, I will update the board and let you know. The sewer project at Topsail Elementary School, DOT and the contractor have finally talked to each other a little bit, and that should be getting back on schedule here real soon. DOT was holding them up with permits and things like that because DOT has a little project that's going on over there, and they had to coordinate a little bit, and I think they're going to get their schedules worked out and get that taken care of. The athletic fields at both middle schools are on schedule. If you need an excuse to go out and drive by, go take a look. They're shaping up. There's going to be extremely nice middle school facilities. I'm really looking forward to when they're done. But other than that, if you have no other questions, that's their facilities update. Something that's not on the list. I know Mr. Swartz loves things that are not on the list, but this just happened today, so it couldn't be put on the list. But the contract extension for ABM was signed today, and they have been extended through December the 31st. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Mr. LaFawn. Any questions?
Mr. LaFawn, do you have any action items?
All right, Dr. Blumenreich.
You have action items?
Start. Go ahead, Brad.
No action.
No action items. So as they finish, can they, so they don't have to stay, if they don't have action items, can they leave? Is that Mr. LaFawn, if he's done, there's no sense in him hanging out with us, correct? Unless...
He'd probably like that.
I enjoy your company, Mr. Jordan.
I'm not trying to run you off. I'm just saying if you don't, there's no sense in you lingering around.
Get an extra body out of the room, I think that would be okay.
And that goes for anybody that doesn't, if you don't have action.
All right, take 3 with me.
I hate for y'all could stay, you're more than welcome. I'm not trying to run you off. Mr. Chair, I'm not trying to overstep my boundaries, but I don't see a need if they don't need to be here to be here.
Actually, I'm free to take care of it.
All right, Dr. Blumenreich. Item 9.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, members of the board. I'll make this very, very quick. I just want to keep you apprised. Scrib and Roll is live. The kindergarten registration portal for this next year has, with members of site-based staff, instructional services, and staff under me with testing and accountability and data managers, have enrolled 244 kindergartners for this next year through the portal.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So it's open for this next year just for kindergartners. It's, of course, open for this year, for the 1920 school year, for everybody that is still enrolling. And believe it or not, we are still getting people enrolling. Which will bring us to an action item a little bit later on, but we'll get to that. I do have a question specific, and I don't know if this is the right place, but it deals with the whole Scribbles portal. We're seeing, because of the COVID-19 crisis, an opportunity to maybe extend the transfer deadline to May 1st. And with the board's permission, of course, and the superintendent, Hampton and CNET, we'd like to extend that if possible and make sure that we get it posted with very big flashing letters, numbers, and countdown items, because we don't want anybody to miss this opportunity. That's all right.
So I couldn't find that date anywhere in policy R&P. I know it's on our application.
Yes.
So we really don't have to vote on it. It's just
it's just
information.
Yeah, just information. We want to push it back. Just want to make sure you guys are aware.
Right.
If you're comfortable with that.
Yeah. I mean, whatever, if May 1st or June 1st or whatever is doable. I mean, I don't want to push it too far back and then.
Well, it's really a planning. You got to have time to
Right.
figure how many are we moving around where, how many teachers now, with all the new regulations and rules and laws about how many staff members you can have where. You've got to have a cutoff date with this situation.
With our current cutoff date, we have 431 transfer requests.
So you're moving the school around every year.
That's a significant number, I think more than what I've dealt with since I've been here.
So, and I had this question, but it doesn't matter to me if we move the date or not, but why do you think we need to move the date? I mean, everybody's home and it's online now.
Well, we've had a number of, not just employees, but parents, send emails to us saying that it just was under the crisis situation that they have just kind of forgotten about it.
That makes sense.
Last year when we had the transfer, we were counting it down on social media every day. We count down from 5. Well, this year with everything going on, kind of slipped through the cracks.
And also with the new portal.
Right. Yeah.
That's good. That makes sense.
There's an opportunity here.
So what's the recommendation to move it from what to what?
I think that moving it to May 1st would be appropriate in my discussions with my people and with the superintendent.
That's not on the agenda, right?
No, it's not no.
No, sir.
That's not, Richard, it's not really something we even need to vote on.
No.
I mean, it's a courtesy they're telling us. Ask them. Tell them.
That's a high profile item in the board. Yeah.
But it's not in our policy or in our R&P. I made sure so we didn't have to add it to the action.
Sure, it's not in policy, I think it is.
Well, if you can find it.
Could be wrong.
If you can find it, it's 41 something is the policy.
I'm looking at 4150 request for reassignment. Before notice of assignment.
I looked at school assignment.
Richard, I'm looking at 4150. I don't see a date in there. Let me check, the R&P real
Yeah, I
quick.
looked at that on I'm looking at the RFP.
Yeah, I'm looking at that too.
I think I could have missed it, but I didn't see it.
I thought it was in there. I was told to go back and look too.
No, I don't,
I thought it was in there
It's
too.
just on the application.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's must be where it's at.
yeah,
Right.
it's a date that we set every year based on
Right.
how the calendar
And that's-
falls. It's not a hard
Historically.
date. I think last year it was April
Well, it used
2nd
to
or
be,
3rd.
it used to be in the policy at one
Yeah.
time.
Yeah, I
We
don't-
never adhered to it.
No, I
So
don't,
we
I don't.
that's why it came out of the policy.
Yeah, yeah, I don't see a hard date in either the policy or the R&P on when they're due.
Okay, there's a procedure for requesting reassignment before notice of student assignments goes out, and then within 10 days after the assignment has gone out.
That's if we deny it.
I'm sorry, within, right, they can request reassignment up to, prior to and within 10 days after notice of assignment going out. And then if it's denied, they've got 5 days to request a board hearing. So it all hinges on when notice of assignment goes out for next year. So when were you getting notice of assignment out?
Well, we were doing a multiple tiered pass through the transfer requests, going through the employees first, because it's part of the employee perk process. So because we've had enough people indicating that they missed the deadline, and because it's a new process, and because of the crisis, we felt in discussion that it might be appropriate to move it to May 1st. So it will be an ongoing process through that time.
Okay, but you're talking about for people, a deadline for people to apply.
Correct.
Okay, so when do we send out notice of assignment for next year?
It will
Are we going to
be,
do that in report cards at the end of the year or some other way?
no, it goes out automatically through the Scribble system once the transfer is approved. And we will not do that fully for our citizens, I think, until May 1st. It's generally, we wait till the end of it.
We gotta get them all in now, it'll be May 1st, so
Yeah.
we haven't set a new date yet.
Okay, that's not what I'm asking. What I'm asking is, every kid at the end of the year gets notice of their school assignment for the following year. When are we sending that out?
When we send out this, do we approve or disapprove?
Well, it literally goes out the same day that we approve it or deny it in the system. So
There's no date.
we can hold them all.
So we start doing it,
We could hold them all, or we could do them as we work through them. But if we change the date, it would be appropriate to kind of hold back on everything until the end of the deadline. We have all of the data.
Right, I agree with that. I mean, hold them till we're done. And if you're keeping up with them May 2nd, then you can send the thing out May 2nd. I think we're good, Richard. If you want to move on, I don't think this needs to drag out.
Okay,
I mean, we really haven't changed anything that we were doing before, other than change the date. And before last year, we didn't even have a date, or we had one, but we never used it. Don's still there.
Chairman?
Yeah. Good on that? Everybody good on that?
Yes, sir. I think we're
Yeah,
divided in.
I'll have to communicate with Todd. I'm gonna have to communicate with Todd and Steve on that in order to make sure that I think we're talking apples and oranges here. I understand they're talking about the online system. I'm talking about what's in statute. But we can make it work together.
All right, we'll get on the phone together.
All right. Item 10, State Board of Education guidance on graduation. Dr. Hill and Dr. Aiken.
So, we were asked to put that on there. You want to update, is that what you were asking for? About basically where we're at with graduation, and we can give you everything we know now, sir.
So
Yeah,
just
what does
following,
the State Board have to tell us?
so just following up from our meeting on April 2nd, per the guidance that we received following the state board meeting, and then a memo that went to us April 2nd from NCDPI. This reiterates that the state board has a way for the cohort graduating June 30, 2020, that LEAs may award additional credits earned beyond 22, but cannot require additional credits beyond 22 for graduation. The last board meeting that we had, I was seeking clarification whether our board needed to act on that or does it matter, and I believe we were advised to just sort of hold and wait and see.
So Rich, that might be something we need some guidance on, is basically, the state has reduced the requirements to the minimum. Do we need to change anything on policy or do a waiver locally?
That I'd have to look at your policies on. So I can look at that and get back to you.
It's still going to General Assembly?
No,
Or is that state board direct?
No, sir, the state board has already made this happen. It was an existing, the 22 was already the state board approved minimum number, and what we have received is that the state board's action is the final action. There's no General Assembly
And so you,
steps needed.
the local board requires more, obviously, than 22. We just don't know if there needs to be some sort of additional information for 1 year in there or not. But we can get that straight with Richard, though. I think that's what we talked about last week.
Yeah, if the rule is the rule, we can't really.
We'll check on that and get back to you.
But I do got a question.
Yes, sir.
And I know I asked this last time. I've seen two different emails from two different senior English teachers in the same school to two different students. And one of them told them to continue doing their work, and the other one told them to, as of March 13th, whatever their grade was, they were done. So are we trying to make an attempt with the teachers to encourage the students to at least keep trying, learning the best they can to keep?
Yes, sir. That has been our stance from the very beginning, from the first time that we heard about this. We can go back and clarify again if we need to, but I think the information we sent was pretty clear that while the state has said the grade the student had up till March 13th would be the grade that was earned, and that we would utilize the PC-19 for the second semester period, or WC-19 if it was a credit either not needed, the student was failing, didn't need it for graduation, or that would be an indicator for us that we need to enroll the student in an intervention in order to get them that credit recovery to be able to pass if they needed that 22nd credit. But our stance from the very beginning has been that, first, all the guidance we receive, the best thing we can do for our kids is keep them engaged. That has been, for our seniors or otherwise, we wanted to do that. Second, a lot of these students are in competitive situations, and simply telling them to no longer be engaged and then therefore possibly no longer earn those credits, if that was to happen, since we don't know whether we're coming back or not, we did not want to go down there. And third, we still have students that may be able to earn certain honors credentials for CTE. And those are things that could then save them money if they were to go to a community college or four-year institution, or for a credential may get them a job. So we have said from the beginning that the 22 would obviously meet state. And we have, I don't know the exact number, but a high percentage of our second semester seniors are already there. That really wasn't our emphasis. Our emphasis was continuing the learning process, which was the other mandate that DPI has given us, really K-12, K-13, but that these students continue. We have students that are continuing to work with K-3 Community College. We've had a few that are not going to be able to, but that actually number's a lot lower than we thought it was going to be. So we have a lot of people still doing those things. We have students who are still taking AP courses, so we want them to be able to get CTE courses. So from the beginning, our goal has been to try to keep our students engaged in the learning process. So if we need to go back and...
If you just send a reminder, it's kind of difficult. The parent contacted me because their son had got an email from their teacher telling them, you know, assigning work, log in and do the work. And then his girlfriend got, as a different teacher, the same grade level, and her email said, I'm not assigning anything. Whatever you had on March 13th is what you got.
Would you ask that parent to please forward that to Dr. Nick?
I've seen both of them. I'd rather not. I mean, but I've seen the emails. That's what it says.
We'll clarify.
I've seen both of them.
But our intent across the district has been, regardless of the student's grade level, and we want to keep that learning process going. We are still waiting for guidance from the state on what to do with 6th through 11th grade in terms of grades. That's why kind of what we had rolled out was that we would work with our staff to be able to assign grades as a measure of record keeping of work completion and progress, but they are not official because we do not yet know whether we will be returning or not, and the state has not indicated a decision. We're being told that's being punted to May 15th. If we come back, there may be guidance given district by district. If we don't come back, the state's going to make a decision for us, kind of like what we do with seniors. So I think right now for 6-11, well, 3-11, you know, by offering the opportunity for grades to be accepted as a way to give progress and information, we certainly hope that our teachers are doing a lot more than that, which they are. There's a lot of conferencing. We have teachers that have their one Google Classroom, Google Hangout with big groups, and they're doing feedback with smaller groups. We have teachers that are sort of writing emails as feedback. All those count as well. One of the things we were concerned about was if we were to come back May 15th and had no record of what had happened beyond teacher narrative, which I think is actually very powerful, but our system still relies on letter grades. So we didn't want to put teachers in the position of suddenly having to figure out what to do. And if the state says, well, we're going to do something else, we wanted to make sure we had data one way or the other. So I don't know if there was confusion maybe on understanding that particular issue. But regardless of our students' sort of experiences, we want to make sure they have the opportunity to continue learning. I would hope that the standards and the content that we're covering is valuable regardless. But we have a lot of students for whom that could save them money if we can give them, earn those credits and they can show a college or university, yeah, it says PC 19, but I can prove evidence from the school that I completed that course. In the CTE, again, the high school transcript may only say PC 19 for mechatronics or something else, but our students will be able to, hopefully can go get those credentials so they completed the content. So we'll work on that communication. For sure.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Mayor.
All right, any more questions? No more questions. All right, thank you. Next section is the consent agenda. That is items 11 through 14. Anyone have any questions about any of these before we vote on them? Okay, do we have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
I make a motion we approve the consent agenda.
All right, Brad makes the motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
All right, we have a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All right, I think that's everybody. Are there any opposed? Okay, thank you. Action agenda, next item is item 15, CTE Computer Labs, Dr. Aiken.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, thank you. I'm back again. If you remember way back, Ms. Willenwaber had presented to the board regarding our move toward Perkins 5, and we shared, I think, a lot of the student data that we had taken and the emphasis changing. This is one of our very first steps toward that. Ms. Willenwaber and I are submitting a request to use some of our CTE federal money to be able to refit 2 of our labs at Topsail High School to begin teaching for next year digital design and animation 1 and 2, as well as game art design. Those were 2 highly rated courses by the students, and they also match the shift that we're looking for in our Perkins federal money. We already have 2 teachers who were there and certified to teach those courses. We are working right now with our principals at Heidi Trask and Pender High to begin the training process for teachers at those 2 schools, so that hopefully this time next year I'll be here talking about how retrofit their classes to teach those same two courses, along with robotics would be one of our next up courses to go. So we have people in place and rooms in place ready to go at Topsail. So we'd like to move on that for this year with going that direction for Trask and Pender High next year.
That's pretty cool. Is that a 1 semester, what is it, tiered classes, or how?
Digital design would be entry level 1, and then 2 would be the second one. Game art design game art design would be an entry 1. So any student would be able to take those if interested, and they were pretty popular among the students.
I'm sure they were.
And that's the area that we're going. In fact, I just was reading an article for the board meeting talked about the consideration of going to a middle school esports. And there's actually already across the country a high school esports league. So when we talk about game art design,
there is a former student from Topsail, Aaron Capico. He is the coach now for esports at a school in Virginia. The first one ever. They're just starting the thing. He's the athletic director and the
NC State actually has a varsity e-learning.
I didn't even have a clue what it was.
$1 million person, some of these things.
Yes.
Crazy.
It's amazing. I wrote the principal said, I don't know if I should shake my kind of old man's head on the front porch about it or run with it, but it is awesome.
They said it's one of the fastest growing sports, and
it is.
It's more watched than NFL football. And I never heard of it.
I'm struggling with it a little bit. I realize I'm getting old, but it's amazing. And the market there for kids to create that stuff is incredible. So no, we're very excited, and we've already the teachers are on board and they're ready to go. So, requesting approval of.
I make a motion we approve the $62,595,000 for CTE Computer Labs.
Second.
All right, Brad.
This is Rich. Both items 16 and 17 need to be approved subject to legal review.
All right, well, Brad has made a motion, and so this one is okay as is, but we have a second.
Second.
Brad, you amend your motion to include that subject to legal review?
Yes, subject to legal review.
Rich, you said 16 and 17.
I'm sorry, I meant 15 and 16, excuse me.
Okay, yeah, so Brad, do you,
Yes, I amend my motion to.
all right, so Brad. Okay, so Brad has amended his motion to include legal review. Do we have a second?
Second.
I'll second.
All right, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Richard, just for a question.
All right.
Chair, can I ask Richard a question, please? Mr. Schwartz, a question?
Yeah, sure.
This is a purchase order. What kind of legal has to be reviewed for the purchase order?
It's a purchase order, but there's going to be a contract that goes with it.
That's not on our invoice we have. Yeah, I was just.
Yes, it's equipment.
It does have a disclaimer that special lease pricing may be available, but I don't think we went that route. We're doing the purchase. All I see on my invoice or quote is for equipment.
Charles, is there a contract that goes with this?
No, sir. My understanding is it's solely for laptop equipment and software equipment needed to run the game art and digital design programs. So we're not contracting with any party to deliver services.
Chuck just texted me and said the computers are purchased by state contract. So there's nothing else with that, it's just a purchase of computers.
Well, the motion's made and approved, that it has to go to legal review, I guess it does. I just don't see us where we have to pay for legal review.
If there's nothing to review, then it'll be a real quick review, but usually there's a contract that goes with this in terms of the terms of sale and,
well, then can we approve it,
we did
the way that we can do it, but if there is a contract involved, would you review it?
there should be terms of sale or something associated with this.
Okay. All right, well, we've got a motion and a second, then let's, everybody's still okay with the minor change there, I'm assuming. If so, then all in favor.
Aye again.
Aye.
Subject to the
Aye.
any opposed? Okay, so that'll be subject to legal review if needed. Is that good enough, Richard? Yep. Okay.
Mr. Chair, is Mr. Smith still with us? We haven't heard him vote.
I'm still here.
Okay. I just want to make sure his vote is getting recorded because we don't hear him on this end.
Okay. Yep, Ken, you were in favor of all that, right?
I am. My phone,
Okay.
yeah, just look for me.
Okay. All right,
It's still on mute. It's still on mute, so I've got it now.
okay. All right, item 16, Go Guardian yearly subscription. Dr. Blumenreich.
Thank you. Up for approval is the Go Guardian yearly subscription renewal. It had undergone legal review last year when we had first put it into place, and of course in this digital environment it's even more imperative that we be able to be prepared for next year when our students come back, for our teachers to be able to leverage the digital platform appropriately. So pending legal review if necessary, we recommend approval of Go Guardian subscription for the next school year 2021.
I want to make a motion to approve.
All right, Ken's made a motion, do we have a second?
Second.
I'll second.
All right, we have a second. All in favor, say aye.
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 All right, any opposed? Okay, thank you. Next item 17, legislative class size collection information for NCDPI. Dr. Blumenreich again.
Thank you. We received notice early last week that NCDPI would be doing individual class size collection numbers at the end to be due on Good Friday. Late last week, after we had generated the information and pulled down what we needed, we did find out that we were one student over in one classroom at Burgaw Elementary. The child had enrolled in late February, and so consequently we needed to generate a waiver for then the superintendent to be able to sign the affidavit indicating that he was, and the board of course were, in compliance with general statute 115C-301 subsection G and general section 115C-301 subsection J. So, again, we did receive information that DPI was, had suspended indefinitely the waiver request process, but it was pending, pending approval by the General Assembly, because it doesn't, just because the waiver, class size waiver request process was suspended, doesn't release us from the obligation of the law unless the General Assembly either provides a waiver for that or something else. So this is where Mr. Schwartz could probably be very helpful jumping in and letting us know what process the General Assembly would apply to allowing DPI to not collect this.
Well, right now, the law is still in effect, so you don't have to collect the information to DPI, but you do have to submit the affidavit. And so making the waiver request is what you should do, and then submit the affidavit.
So what you have in front of you, of course, is the waiver request, the class size, plus the affidavit that Dr. Hill has signed, that everything is in compliance with the statute.
I make a motion, we approve the waiver and submit it to NCDPI.
All right, Brad's made a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second the motion.
All right. All in favor, say aye.
Alright,
Aye.
Aye.
All right, that's everybody unanimous. Thank you. Next item, child nutrition salary adjustment. This is Betsy.
So, just to remind you a little, I guess it's a little over a year ago, we started trying to put everybody on salary schedules. I think y'all will remember we first talked about that at a retreat we had, and we had been working on it for all classifications of employees. Well, we worked on child nutrition, but we had kind of planned to wait till July 1st to do theirs, because of course we thought on July 1st there was a possibility we would have a new food service management company. Well, as y'all probably know, the Airmark gave their employees a $2 raise in the midst of all this stuff, and of course our people got real excited about the whole thing. And interestingly enough, the salary schedule I had worked on with the mins and maxes from the state salary schedule, most of the 13 that we still have on our payroll would get a $2 salary increase. It was really bizarre. So basically what we talked about was asking if y'all thought it would be okay if we just went ahead and put it in place now, so they would pretty much get the $2 raise that the Airmark people did, but this would stay. This would be their salary increase they were going to get on July 1st, it just getting it early, basically. And, of course, the one thing I can say about this causes us no heartburn with as far as the money is concerned, because our child nutrition is very healthy, you know, due to the fact that the way Airmark has run the business in the last few years, and we've all, you know, we've been making money, and so this is one area that it's not, we don't have the money to do what we do. It's just that we thought with, you know, changing it now, we really needed to get your blessing on it.
is this gonna be retroactive back to the Airmark pay increase date, or is it next pay period? When does it start?
Actually, I personally think we should make it retroactive to, is it March 5th? Whenever they started the stuff. The Meals on Wheels.
16th or whatever it was. Yeah, okay.
I call it the Meals on Wheels. But it kind of brought it to the
They started planning,
What did he say?
the school closing began on March 16. That's when you started planning on it.
Right, but it,
I probably started planning on it on that Friday before the 13th.
so
You recommend the effective date be March 16th?
sure.
I'll make a motion to approve the pay increase of $2 per hour for the 13 Pender County staff employees school employees, retroactive back to March.
Second the motion.
16th.
Ken's on it, that's
Well,
he's on that.
Do we need to be more specific? I mean, I don't want to mislead anybody. It says approximately $2 an hour. It's basically on the scale that we were doing anyhow. It's everybody's right at $2 or maybe a
Right,
little
and
bit more.
there's about a little bit.
We're just asking to,
Like one of them's 198, and
Yeah.
one of them's 202. I mean, because I did the minimums and maximums on the salary schedule, but it was just really interesting that most of them were around the $2 mark.
So can we make the motion to approve the pay increase to the salary schedule
Yes.
per the finance director's recommendations? Retroactive back to
All right, all right, we got a motion and a second, and all in favor?
I'll tell you, this will make our
Yes.
child nutrition people very, very happy. Thank you very much.
All right, no opposed, unanimous. Good night.
John, this is Rich, just so we've got this clear in the minutes as to what was just done, there were several people talking at once. The motion, as I understood it from Brad, was to approve the pay increase the proposed pay increase for CNS employees effective March 16, 2020, in accordance with the new salary schedule prepared by the finance officer.
Correct.
Yep. Did you get that, Alex?
Yeah.
Okay, thanks.
All right, and item 19, very similar. Go ahead, Betsy.
Okay, thank you. As we had mentioned before, we were hoping to do some type of incentive pay for the folks who are actually coming into work, doing the Meals on Wheels stuff, and and as I began to try to work on this, some folks around us were doing time and a half, some were doing stipends, some whatever, but with the vast majority of people we have working in our Meals on Wheels program, there's no way we can do time and a half. When you've got in excess of 120 people, some of them working 8 to 9 hours a day, and I use 60 days to base this on because I was kind of going to, from like when it started to May 15th, and it might just go a little longer than that, so that's how I came up with my figures. So then we worked on some type of stipend, and we kind of used, Mr. George, you sent us a thing from the state where they did the child care stuff with the 300, and we thought, well, that's not a lot, but it's doable, really. I mean, so anyhow, I think if you'll look, we made a chart of different people, and this would be the maximum amount spent because it would be done on a prorated type basis. For example, some of the people working in the child nutrition program have been there every day. And they would get, if you approve this, like $300 the first month and then the second month. Some of them have worked, 3, 4, 5, but they have not worked every day. So it doesn't seem equitable to me to give everybody just a straight $300 if they only worked the first week or the second week and then they didn't. So that's kind of where I'm at with this. I wish I could recommend the time and a half, but I can't.
Yes.
I just can't.
Change that.
Yeah, but we thought it was important that you see, because we see, I'm looking at several districts that are trying to pull that off, but they're probably not running the level of food service we're running in as many people.
The ones around us, I emailed all my finance officers that I know in the region, and Brunswick didn't get back to me, but New Hanover at this time is the only people doing time and a half. Some of them have Onslow, I don't know exactly what Onslow's doing, but you were talking about, Mr. George, that they were going to start doing with restaurants. They said they did no incentive pay. Sampson adjusted just their child nutrition people, but that's because they don't have the buses running like we do, so they could do Duplins, give them some type of weekly amount. So I've tried to check around to see, and then we also had a list that had more people on it that a lot of the regional type people were trying to do a stipend. So I've just tried to look into all the scenarios. I just wanted us to, no, it's not my decision, but I thought it'd be nice if we could actually just do something, you know, because they are, I mean, the ones that are coming in and working, especially on the Meals on Wheels program, I mean, you know, they're hustling. So we actually put 3 scenarios on here, and you can see what they are. I do. Scenario C, I could not recommend that.
Well, yeah, exactly. And I guess the A is really what would be the nicer scenario for to recommend to the board. But we did put the other one in there. A has the supervisors in it. B does not. It's just straight hourly staff. That's really the difference in those 2 scenarios. But, I mean, looking at those dollars, we feel like we could probably pull either one of those off. Is that correct, Beth?
Right, because a lot of this can come, well, like the teacher assistants that are working on the buses, we are still actually paying them out of their 027 code, which is allowable. And so even doing this, that can still come out of it. They have made that very flexible. So, like always, I will just be switching some money around. And actually, some of the money that's being paid out of some of these, if it exceeds the amount we, like bus drivers or whatever, that we pay normally, it can come out of, you know, the 154 money, which is the COVID-19 money. So
Scenario A, I'm confused. Scenario A is B plus D, but it doesn't include C.
Scenario A.
Yeah, A is everybody in the department,
C is,
staff, and that's certified and salary.
C is in B.
C is in B.
Right, so like B,
I got you. So B, there's only, take finance for example,
Right.
there's only 2 extra.
me and Tanya Brown are not considered hourly.
So if I take you out, then I have C. You and Tanya
Yes.
out.
Right,
Okay, that's where I was confused at.
yeah.
So why does they skip C there?
Yeah, that's what it is. So we were just, you know, we were just throwing around this, that, and the other, so, but that's how that works.
So we recommend A, we can afford it, but B is hourly, but I want to put both those options down there.
So that's giving everybody 300, how are you gonna,
They have to come to work, they have had to physically come to work. And,
every day or percentage a day?
well, all right, I'll give you an example of my folks. My folks have been here every day. They have not, I have been here every day. I'll give you an example with Human Resources. Some of her folks are teleworking. They're here some of the time. They don't get $300. They will get
prorated amount.
whatever the prorated amount is. Darren's folks, they're here every day. Transportation's here every day. So that's kind of how, it just don't seem right to me to give.
I'm in agreement with you on that.
If
Yeah.
it's based around hazard pay, we're looking at when did you most likely come in daily contact, you know, and things like that with the public.
So, none of this will go to, principals and staff at the school?
Well, we talked about that some, so I don't know, Dr. Hill, if you want to talk about
Well, it would actually, I mean, we could include those, we're not going to include senior staff. And we weren't planning on including staff like that. We were talking about directors and people like that.
Well, if you could do the C plus D, there's no senior staff, there's no directors, there's totally hourly people.
So the bookkeepers at the school, are they in this hourly staff? Are they in this hour? The ones
No, they are hourly.
So they're in this somewhere?
They're not actually in this, and most of them are actually working from home. They come in occasionally.
Okay. I just don't want to leave anybody out.
We had that discussion today about, where's the line?
Well,
what do you do?
I mean, I know for a fact that there are some people at some of the schools who are coming in. I know of a person today who came in to help make calls and try to find some of these parents. And she may have done it other times, I don't know, but she came into the school to make calls because that's the only way she could access.
That's it. We had a lot of discussion about that.
did.
There's a solid line, and it's.
Because I want to be fair and I want to be very consistent because so many people are working diligently day in and day out. And a lot of them are coming into the schools semi-regularly. You have APs who are. You have principals who are. Some are working at home and some days they're at the school. We know that. I just want to be fair.
I know it's really hard.
Yeah, I want to make sure everybody that's eligible. But I agree that if you're not there the majority of the time. It kind of takes away
And what's considered
kind of
majority?
takes away the incentive to do it, you know, I mean, if everybody's gonna get it, then
I
everybody's
know,
gonna
you
get
know,
it. So here's my motion, Mr. Chair, if you're ready for it.
Don?
Yes, sir.
I make a motion, we adopt scenario A, as recommended by the finance director, using her prorated formula for the employees up to $300 a month. Does that sound right?
I think is that correct, Betsy?
I mean, yeah, if that's.
Does that make sense? I mean, that makes sense?
Yeah.
Retroactive
Okay.
back to the beginning.
We got a motion, all right, Brad's made a motion, do we have a second?
I'll second.
Okay, so all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All right, that's unanimous, thank you.
Thank you.
So, Ms.
This is
Chestnut,
Rich, do we have a starting date and an ending date for this?
Yeah, well, my motion had retroactive back to the beginning. The ending date, I guess, would be at the end of if we need an ending date, I guess it would be at the end of the crisis.
Right. I mean, I based
that-
this on 2 months.
So when they allow us to come back.
2 months beginning March 16th?
Yes, because then that would end like May 15th, and, you know, who knows what's gonna happen after that.
Yeah, so we can revisit this if needed, right?
Right.
Right, Richard?
Yeah, but let's know when the start date is. Is it March 16th,
March 16th, yes.
Betsy?
Yes, sir. Yeah.
How about if we get another motion to approve this for the period from March 16th through May 15th?
Okay, let's do a revote then.
We
do have a second motion.
I make a motion.
Okay. Brad, do you want to?
I make a motion that we add the dates to the previous motion of beginning on March 16th and ending on May 15th.
All right, we'll get a second.
I'll second.
Okay, Beth is seconded again. Any more discussion before we vote? Okay, all in favor, vote aye.
Aye.
Ms. Chestnut, I had another question for you, but I cannot remember what it was.
Oh, well, if you think of it,
I had it until Richard. God. What was it? Oh, our pre-K. What's the final ruling on the pre-K IAs?
okay, here's my thought, having dealt with them since the year 2000, from the beginning. Typically, they say that they have to follow our rules. Typically, our rules is a whole lot more restrictive than Head Start. In the whole 20 years we've run that program, we have never had a thing from them that theirs was more restrictive than ours. They are going to give her, the money's coming into the program, and we will be in violation of their rules if we do not pay them. Now, weren't you on?
But it kind of fits with the
We
emergency
were,
pay.
we were on a conference call, weren't you on that call? Yeah, with Stacy. Now, Stacy and there was some other folks, I don't know all of them. Yeah, Grace was on it. They have all sorts of stuff that their IAs are going to do. She said that she could not guarantee positively they would work 7.5 hours, which is what's the requirement for them. But she said they had lots of work for them, and so they're not just going to be getting paid. But I kind of feel like we're going to have to do what the Head Start people say, because it is a federal grant. And it kind of concerned me because until we had the conference call with Stacy, I thought, well, is she just like, they just went home and just sit there and get paid, which, you know. But she said, no, they had a lot of work for them to do. So, I don't know what else to say about that.
Okay, I'd always assumed that they kind of fell under our rules, but they were kind of like contractors to us.
No, when this started, let's see, this is where my lovely knowledge comes in. When all this started way back in the day, when we got the Head Start grant, we had to basically say they were going to be a part of our school system. And one caveat to that was, in order for that to be, and for them to get state retirement and health and plan, I mean, they had to be a part of the system, not a contractor. So basically, they are considered a part of our system.
Okay.
And like I say, this is the only time in all the years that we've had them that theirs is different than what ours has always been so much more restrictive. So it's one of those strange things that has happened.
Well, it might have been some of the pressure for the state to come around. Feds were doing it.
All right. Very good. Well, thank you. Comments from board members. I'll start by saying I appreciate what all of our staff has done. Trying times, different times, being out in public, so on and so forth. So, thank you is not really enough, but these times it is what it is. So, that's all I've got. Mr. Smith, do you have anything for us?
I would concur with what you said, Mr. Chairman, and I also would offer just a moment of silence, prayer for those that are still suffering or lost their lives to this virus. And many of them we know are connected to school systems throughout the United States. So just we'll continue to keep that in our thoughts and prayers.
All right, thank you, sir. Mr. George.
I concur with what you said earlier, Chair Hall. It's a different times, it's trying times, and I think it's starting to wear on a lot of people's patience and nerves and mental capacity, and I just appreciate all that's been done, even though sometimes it doesn't appear that way. The efforts are appreciated by me and all the citizens of Pender County and the state.
All right, Ms. Burns.
Well, I echo the sentiments of what everyone else has said. There has been a gargantuan effort to get e-learning up and running, not only by our technical team, but also by all the teachers. Yes, I've gotten some calls from some parents who have been a little frustrated with the platform, but they're getting it. And everyone is putting in a tremendous amount of effort, and it's going to work. But again, thank you to everybody who has worked so hard to make this a good thing and make it work. And I believe that in the future we will be sitting a whole lot better when there will be another hurricane or any other disaster to hit here. I think we have started something now that's going to help us in the future. And again, thank you for all your work.
All right, Ms. Fontana.
Well, I've kind of been keeping up with how many we've had watching and listening in tonight, and it's quite a pretty large number. So to all of you guys who are listening, especially to you teachers who have your own kids at home, I am trying to hold on to a business, homeschool 3, plus everything else got going on, and I don't know how you're doing it. I don't know how in the world you are managing to tutor and to have all of these Google Lives and everything you're doing day in and day out. But please, please, please know how much it is so appreciated from all of us parents who are trying to do what we can do on a daily basis to make you proud of your students. To all of you out there, the bus drivers, the assistants, the maintenance, transportation, everybody, central office, please know that all of you are essential. To all 5 of us, you are all important, and we know what a great job that all of you are doing. Just know that we value you and we appreciate everything you have done. I have been here since 1994, and I am continued to be amazed at the staff that we have in Pender County Schools and what you do for our students. And to any parents who are listening, please, please, please make sure your students are doing their work. These teachers have worked so hard to present a platform for all of our students. And to me, it's just the right thing to do to make sure our students are completing their work. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Dr. Hill.
Yes, sir. I just want to thank the board for the support, and everything you're saying about the staff is absolutely accurate. A wonderful set of people. They're doing phenomenal work. It's not going to be an easy transition because it was an immediate hard stop with very limited resources. And again, I just add to your statements that this staff is doing tremendous work, and they are to be applauded for it, and we appreciate every one of them. Also, I got an email while we were here tonight. There's submission of our budget to the county is being rewritten. That date's going to change. And also, if you didn't know, the Easter Bunny's here tonight too, because Mr. LaFawn would be picking up a couple of 100 bunny rabbits and other stuffed animals in baskets from the Porter Neck Walmart. So that we're going to try to use those somewhere, maybe with younger counselors in younger ages, so that they can hand those out along the way or something. But we'll find something to do with all those bunnies.
Yeah, New Hanover County couldn't sell them, so I guess they got to give them away. They were all blocked off. You couldn't buy them in New Hanover County.
We're going to have a lot of little rabbits. It'll be nice.
It was funny, the Easter baskets were blocked off, not essential, but the candy wasn't. Costco's, the TVs were, you could buy a TV, but you couldn't buy clothes.
All right. Thank you, Dr. Hill. We have closed session here. Will someone make the closed session motion, please?
Before we do that, Dr. Hill, I don't know of any confidential student matters we have for this meeting. Are there any?
No, it's just HR, I believe, which is all leave of absence.
Okay. Then we can take off. We can end that motion after it says attorney-client privilege. Whoever's going to make the motion.
Okay, thank you. And do we have a motion as stated?
Pender County Board of Education will enter into closed session subject to the advice from the attorney pursuant to North Carolina General Statute 143-318.11A1 and A6 to prevent disclosure of confidential personnel information under General Statute 115C-319 and to consider matters relating to the initial employment of an individual employee. The board will also go into closed session pursuant to General Statute 143-318.11A3 to consult with the board attorney in order to preserve the attorney-client privilege.
All right, we have a motion. All in favor, vote aye.
I'll second the motion.
You need a second.
Second the motion.
Yep, sorry about that, I slipped. 10 seconds now, all in favor say aye.
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 All right, unanimous, thank you. Can someone ensure that the UP